Alright, hey guys, and welcome back. It's been a while, I know, and as usual, I've got nothing but reviews for you today. This one is about The Witcher, the second season specifically, so I recently watched it and completed it, so it's time to make the review. Let me tell you that overall, I think compared to the first season, this one is better built. There is more story to it. There is more conclusivity. There's more like what do you call this? It's more holistic in the sense where they explain more things. There's more lore, more backstory, and better character building in general. So there's more things sort of made more solid. In the first one, it was more mysterious. Like everything was just thrown into the film and given in pieces, and you sort of got to figure things out a little bit. But because like some of us are fans of the Witcher lore, so we can sort of put things together in the first film. Whereas in the second one, the film does a lot of self-explaining, where it tries to make you understand that this is why these things are happening, which is good for people who don't know about the lore, but also for those who do know about the lore, it actually sort of moves away from the original Witcher lore. There's a lot of things that's going on here that never happened in the game's original story and probably would never actually happen. Like, there's a lot of character decisions that are being made here. The way Triss Marigold is being portrayed is just not really, I don't know, not really character accurate. And the way Geralt interacts with what do you call this Siri in this is okay. I think Geralt's interaction in Siri is probably the closest thing that you'll get. And Vesemir is okay. He's a decent character in this nonetheless. But I think that there's still some sort of gap, especially between Yennefer's relationship with Siri. I think it's just sort of I don't know, really odd because of the way that she tries to sacrifice Siri and stuff like that. It's just not something that I think she would, actually decide to do in the game. Like, the characters are really unique and really different, and it's fine for them to take their own route in their own story. That's nothing to do with the game. I think that's okay. They want to give something new, something unique, something different. But some of the character decisions just seem really weird considering I don't think Yennefer would actually even make the decision to sacrifice Geralt's sort of like gift child of surprise. But yeah, anyway, we came to that point and all that. Overall, I think the action in the film is subpar. Is not that impressive. I think the first movie actually had some pretty awesome action scenes. And this one, there's a lot more monster fighting, which is absolutely great. But you sort of are thrown in from one monster battle to another, and you don't really appreciate the aesthetics of the fight itself. There's not really that much going on in terms of the way Geralt sort of prepares himself or baits the monster or anything like that. It sort of happens like almost like, oh right, Geralt can do this, so he's just gonna kill the monster now. It's sort of that, it doesn't really have the build up to it. And then I feel the music throughout the series was really good. Honestly, I listened to some of them on YouTube, and I think they're pretty good. Most of the music in the series is pretty decent. The cinematography and the atmospherics are okay. It does feel somewhat like a high budget Netflix series, but when it comes to the CGI, I think it's really obvious that they had budget for specific episodes, and so some episodes, the CGI looks really good, and whereas in some other episodes you can really see the sort of like the edges in the graphics. You can see the white lines, and you can see how disconnected the characters are from the CGI creatures that's in front of them, because the eye movement just doesn't follow the exact point and whatever. It's just not as crisp as I guess is feature film or whatever. But yeah, it is what it is. I think it's okay. But most importantly, when it comes to the performance of the actors in the series, I think a lot of them actually did a great job. I think all the actors actually fulfilled their roles really well, and they did whatever the script was for them. There was just one or two that I felt was just not really captivating. Like Tris Marigold's character was just meh. This wizard guy, he had some parts where he did some cool stuff, but he wasn't really useful towards the end when they were actually fighting the almighty. the witch that sort of takes over Ciri's body, and they were battling this witch, and the wizard guy didn't really come in to help, which was really weird because he was like thrown in to a lot of parts in the series, and I expected the build up to be such that he'll be a part of whatever the finale is, being a good friend and all that, but he really wasn't very much involved. And I'm kind of glad that they brought Yaskir, right? Yaskir back in, but he didn't have much of a role. Even towards the end, he was just sort of walking around, bumbling and fumbling over like a rock or something. But he doesn't really do anything very useful or very unique. The story is very much focused on Geralt and Ciri, and Yennefer is just doing her own thing. Yennefer is basically the most irritating and most useless character in this particular series because all she does is rant about the fact that she lost her powers, cry over it, uh, you know, and then she goes to the witch and she agrees to the witch that she's going to sacrifice Ciri in order to gain her powers back. And she just goes to try to do it and then fails and then regrets it and then doesn't really help much towards the end. Only in the very final moments, all of a sudden, her powers are, back because she somehow absorbed the witch or something and then expelled it and used her powers. I don't know. There's just a lot of things that, like, okay, let me put it to you this way, right? You have a bunch of wizards that's actually trying to study these events, that's trying to figure out what's going on, and you build up, to show how they work so hard to try to figure things out. But towards the very end, everything just happens on a whim, like by luck and by coincidence and by plot armor. It makes no sense for the characters to have gone through that much build up for no reason whatsoever. A very good example is also WandaVision. In WandaVision, Vision spends a lot of his time, if you guys have watched it, Vision spends a lot of his time investigating about these strange occurrences in the town that he's living in. And I've already covered this in a previous review, so spoiler alert, by the way. So he is, he sort of investigates throughout like several episodes, right? And he sort of figures certain things out. But towards the end, all of a sudden, there's another villain that shows up. There's another battle finale altogether, and everyone just figures things out by themselves. And Vision's entire, like episodic experiences that he gathers with all these investigation doesn't help anyone. It's completely wasted. Like this, it's absolutely pointless because there's an episode where everyone figures things out together because someone else shows up and just tells them, "So this is what's been going on. Guess what? I'm the villain. This is what I do." And these things happen. So there's absolutely no reason for the character to be spending time exploring, figuring things out. You could have just kept it as whatever. Like no one needs to know anything because in the end, the villain's going to tell them the entire story. So it's sort of like the very Bond villain cliche sort of concept where, James Bond does all that investigating for no reason because the villain just tells him everything in the end. So it kind of feels like that a little bit, and I don't really like that concept in stories in general. And I think these episodes are rated a little too high. 8.7 especially, it's ridiculously high. Unless you're really in love with the Witcher series. But I think there's not many people that have rated. There's less than 100,000, so actually there's less than 10,000 most of them. So I think these ratings are not entirely accurate. Mostly people who enjoyed this would have come to rate it. I think a 6 or 7 is still fair, but quite frankly, I enjoyed the first season a little better, and I think that it sort of was more fun with Yaskir and Geralt's relationship and Ciri, sort of just being in the shadows for a bit, and Yennefer sort of discovering her powers and herself and all that. Whereas in this series, you had great relationships between Ciri and Geralt, a lot of character building for Ciri especially. Uh, Great actress. I think she pulled herself very well weight around. She absolutely is one of the stars of the series. That really overshadows almost every other character except Henry Cavill's Geralt. Henry Cavill's performance as Geralt of Rivia, I think, is spot on and is just way too good for this TV series because there's no other character, no other actor that can meet his standards or be on par with him. And that's fine because he's the main character. But I feel that they really need to bring some people who are at least as good as him to follow him around. And I think Yaskir's actor is pretty good, but not Yennefer. Yennefer's actress just didn't do a very good job in this series. You don't really Like even though you know that she's going through a rough patch and she's just trying to get her powers back, you can't really feel sorry for her because she just doesn't carry that sort of body language, that sort of charismatic appearance that tries to tell you that she is, you can pity her too and you can feel bad for her. But no, that's not the case. You just kind of think like she's useless. She doesn't do anything really that useful. She's not figuring things out the way she normally would as a as an intelligent witch. And even the part where she tries to create like a potion to try to solve the problem towards the end, nothing really happens. Everything just goes by miracle of plot armor, and then the witch just get bounced around by Ciri's own powers, so on and so forth. And there's a little bit of interesting lore in this where they try to create a new Witcher. And basically, they use Ciri's blood, which they discover it to be as Elder blood. And they try to create a new Witcher concoction to create a new Witcher. Vasimir tries to inject it into Ciri because Ciri wants it. But in the end, that entire scene just gets cancelled off. And Geralt tells her that you don't need this, you're already enough, and whatever. And I feel that Geralt's parenting skills. I mean, yes, he's a terrible parent, no doubt. But I feel that he sort of holds things like information back from Ciri, and I think that's really weird, considering the fact that um, Geralt knowing that it is his destiny, Ciri is his destiny, I think would want to be willing to tell her a lot more things. Like, fine, she's young, you just wanted to sit back and chill out and whatever. But I'm pretty sure Geralt or Rivia doesn't underestimate women or little girls in any way. So I think in this case, it is just a little bit weird that he wanted to put her on the back seat for most of the film, where she's just standing in like this little area just training, and he goes around fighting monsters. So yeah, that little bit was a bit weird. But later on, when he finally takes her along to go monster hunting, and is willing to put her in harm's way to try to use her as bait and stuff like that, I felt that that's more of the relationship that we needed very much early on in the series. But I think we are going to go through to a very good season three, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really really awed by Henry Cavill's performance as Geralt. It's absolutely brilliant, and Cyrilla is acted. I'm not sure who the I forgot the name of the actress. Freya Allen, right? Freya Allen as Cyrilla is really, really good. Also had some good side characters. Emon Farron as Kahir and just Fringilla. I think the two of them had some interesting relationship going on as sort of counterparts to this bigger, like villain and whatever they're showing up. And the plot twist towards the end was really weird as well. I don't really want to bring that particular part up. Should I? Well, it is a spoiler review anyway, right? So basically, Cyrilla's dad is still alive. For some reason, her actual father is still alive, and that's the yeah, that sort of happens in the finale. Dara doesn't really have much of a role, but Kahir and Fringilla were very, very, very big. What do you call this? Like supporting casts, and despite having a really like a lot of screen time, they didn't really add up to anything towards the end. They sort of have always been side characters, and in the end still perform their role as just side characters, and they don't really affect the main characters of the story much either. They're just doing their own thing. They just sort of interact with Yennefer in between, interact with yeah, I think mostly Yennefer. I think everyone interacted with Yennefer. Yeah, actually, right? Yeah, everyone interacted with the Yennefer, and Yennefer just interacted with these two. So I think Yennefer still remains to be the center of this story, but yeah, she just I mean, Anya Chalotra may be a great actress. I think the first season she did much better, but in this one, I don't think she was just given the right script to pull off what she's capable of. And yeah, that definitely showed. So let me pull out my rating for this one. Don't worry, it's not gonna be too harsh. It's gonna be a decent rating, I suppose. Um, wait, why can't I type it? Does it allow me to type the number? Oh no, what would I do if I can't rate it? Okay. There we go, 6 out of 10 for the Witcher series. I think I wouldn't mind putting it a little bit lower, maybe even a 5 out of 10. But I feel that there were certain parts of this series that is definitely um, worth watching. I would say, like, it's not a bad series by any means, but it's not a great series by any means. Is it a good series? It's okay. It's worth the watch. I think it's just a filler between season 1 and season 3. It's what it feels like. I have a feeling if we were to rate this between season one is definitely a 7 or 8. I think this is a 5 or 6, and I could go lower. I could be a little bit harsher on this, and I think probably I should, just because we have had too good of a TV series recently. So I'm going to put this at a 5 out of 10. And what is the best TV series of 2020? Definitely Arcane. And sorry, 2021, definitely Arcane. And I think Arcane blows a lot of TV series completely out of the park. There's nothing that can stand beside Arcane. There's a very few TV series that can even claim a challenge, like pose a threat to it. It's just too good. And yeah, the Witcher really needs to sort of take it up a notch if it wants to do anything a little bit better. Uh, and surprisingly, season two is what do you call this? A little more child friendly, I would say. It's less. It's not any less violent, but it has less. I think it has less. What do you call that? Like sexual content or whatever. It doesn't really have any not nude scenes compared to the first season. It does have a lot of killing and stuff like that, but it's mostly towards monsters. People killing is less. I think the first season actually had one very brutal fight scene where Geralt just goes to these people in Blaviken, I think, where he kills all the like just these people thugs I think who show up to try to stop him, and I think that was like by far more brutal than this entire second season. Yeah, I think that's pretty much true. So yeah, that's it from me. I hope you guys have watched the second season, and if you have not, well, maybe wait until the third season comes out if you can, if you have that patience. Because honestly, I think the first season is pretty good, and you can just sit on it because the second season doesn't really offer you that much. Other than Siri's character development, I think Siri was the only one that really went through a lot. Yennefer goes through a really rough patch of losing her powers and getting it back, but it doesn't really change the fact that she she's actually worse than before because now Carol doesn't trust her and is just forced to live with her as sort of like the mom for Siri, with Geralt being the dad. And I think they just forced to go with that. And yeah, Yennefer has not improved as a character. Probably that's the right word. She has developed into a worse character. Yeah, let's put it that way. And Fringilla and Cahir being built up so much, I hope they actually have a role in season 3. Otherwise, I will flip because they had so much screen time, so much talking, and a lot of character building, which amounted to nothing in this particular season. Bringing Yaskier back was great because Joey Battery is absolutely charismatic. The song in the second season is absolutely horrendous. The first season song was so much better, and yeah, I mean it's catchy. You can listen to it a few times and realize it gets a little more catchy, but it doesn't hold a candle to the song in the first season. And Yaskier really needs to take it up a notch for season 3, and I hope in season 3 we get a lot more equal character building, I would say, and a lot more purpose because the lore building in this was great. I think that's the best part of season 2, and I think it did the lore building better than season 1. Because season 1 was sort of like just trying to be a little bit gentle, I guess, with the introduction. They didn't want to overwhelm people with it. But for some of us who are already fans of the original Witcher lore, I think we want to see a lot more lore building to see how this world is different from the world that we know, and also perhaps offers a lot more or less. Who knows? But yeah, it is what it is. All right, see you guys in the next one. Take care.